Hi everybody, Coach Christian here. We're gonna take a little break from Parts Hold this week because we're filming some awesome new content for you guys to see over the next few weeks, but just a little treat for you. We're gonna take some of the best of the few episodes that we've already done this year, go back and hopefully give you everybody a couple of tips and go back and make your parts departments amazing. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we really appreciate it. See you soon. The dealership model's changing, and I think that manufacturers are probably going to start to go away from the model where it's a new car sales receivership place, but parts isn't going anywhere.
Absolutely not.
Right? And I think that really when you think about it, the parts department might be the most stable part of the business.
For sure, like the whole saying where they say parts is parts. They say that for a reason, right?
I think so. I don't even know what it means, but I like it. Also, was going to ask you a question too. How much did the parts manager sell his dead batteries for?
How much did the parts manager sell his dead batteries for?
Yes.
I don't know.
Nothing. They were free of charge. There's a lot of topics, there's a lot of ways to run a parts department really effectively, but no one's talking about them. There's no platform for us to get together. So we're building a community of parts managers, and they're gonna become assassins. They're gonna run better inventories, they're gonna be more profitable, they're gonna be more customer centric, and we also wanna get to a point where other people in the store can go back to the parts department and feel comfortable understanding the business model.
And have a conversation. Most people aren't having the conversation because they just don't understand it and they push it aside and they would rather keep it back there. And it's just part of the business, but they're not having the conversation about it, right?
Yeah. So Cliff, in your experience, what have you seen as the interaction between departments in general from the parts department? How do they view service? How do they view sales?
So from the parts department's point of view?
Yeah.
So most of the time the parts feel that they're a silo unto themselves. They're an island by themselves. They're stuck over in the corner. They want to be left alone, that they're just there. So they view themselves as their own entity.
When it comes to that personalization and those accessories, how many of those are dealer born?
Oh, are we going off percentage again here?
No, because I feel like you just made up the 42.5% thing. So
That's a super educated guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 50%.
Yeah, so at the most, I think.
And that's going to be based on manufacturer too.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that other manufacturers embrace the accessories, but I can't tell you how many times when I was selling vehicles, and it never even occurred to me. Like I would sell a vehicle, and then the customer during the delivery is like, oh, I'm taking it here to do this, and I'm taking it here to do this. And like it never occurred to me that we could do that too. And I think that's probably the same through most parts and sales departments.
So I would even add another layer to that and say, how many vehicles do you think, or how many new cars are sold that the customer takes somewhere else to get tinted?
Tons. Just window tint in itself.
Just window tint alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's an avenue that we could run through parts, generate revenue that we just don't think about because the imagination isn't there.
Yeah. I think that really when you're running a parts department, there's no room for wrappers.
Oh.
It was one of those things that like hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, oh, that's the mentality of a really good parts manager. Because another thing that happens too is that Cliff and I will go into stores, and literally you can tell how healthy a dealership is based on the condition of the parts department.
Without question.
It is.
I think the cleanliness of it is key. Like the setup of it, just the way it looks, the overall layout, you can generally tell the experience that the customer is going to get based on what that looks like.
Yeah, and the profitability of the department.
Oh,
like
hand in hand.
The wrappers, if you will. So like the empty boxes, like that. There's a part here, but the warranty box is over here. The way that like your little nuts and bolts are organized, everything like that. That all plays a part, 100%. And it's like Chris says this thing all the time. He says, how we do anything is how we do everything. And I think about that with parts departments all the time. And really, so as you guys are getting in and really looking at your parts department business, how you do anything is how you do everything. So I think that that's a key, is to recognize it might seem like a little thing. It might seem like we're doing a poor job of inventorying wheel weights, for instance, but really, if we're doing a bad job at that, we're probably doing a bad job at inventorying brake pads, right? And then you've got the situation where you end up, and I don't know, it just drives me nuts, but where you end up with one rotor on the shelf. Where are we going with that? Nowhere. So we're not having healthy inventory levels, and we're not stocking cleanly, but I do think that keeping things clean is so vital to a healthy parts department.
So think about it in this manner. If I just randomly put a part on the floor in the parts department, like if that's my bin location is just a floor and it's just sitting there, if I can't find that part, then I might as well take that money and go throw it in the dumpster, because it's no different. If I can't find it when I go to sell it, it's no different than me taking whatever the value is of that part and sticking that money in the dumpster.
That's right.
It's the same thing.
Literally lighting it on fire. Why would you have, what is the best tire inventory? Why wouldn't we? Why would we? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
How's that sound to start us off?
Yeah, so are we going to kind of debate this back and forth, or how do we want to do this?
Well, I think that you just kind of give me like the rundown, and I'll let you know what I think that might be the best thing at the end of the day.
So I think number one, first and foremost, they're a nuisance.
Oh. Because they're cumbersome?
They're cumbersome, they're bulky, they take up a lot of space.
They smell funny?
They have a funky smell, so it's certainly going to throw that one in there. One of the things as a parts manager that just drove me crazy is the margin. There's just not margin there.
Why do you think that is?
Pricing structure.
Okay.
The tribal knowledge of Billy Bob's down the street sells them for X dollars, and I've got to sell them for X dollars.
So is price the only competitive thing on tires?
No.
So what are some other things? So I get it, and I think people are pretty price conscious on tires. But we could compete other ways. I think that couldn't the inventory be a differentiator? Because I feel like everybody has to order tires nowadays.
Everybody has to. Yeah. So the other side of that is finding somebody who's a good fit. So let me go on the other side. That's some of the reasons why I found tires to be a nuisance. And
right,
I'm sure there's
they take up a lot of space. There's bad margin. They smell funny.
Yep.
And it's like they're always in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? I've kind of paraphrased that for you. Okay, that makes sense.
So the other side of that is in selling them, I get the opportunity to get other items there that I get to sell. So whether it's brake pads, brake rotors, shocks, struts, whatever else there is, so I get an opportunity to sell something that's got a much better margin for me as a parts manager. The next thing of that is I'm going to have to approach it in a couple different ways, because it is a relatively competitive item in many ways. I'm going to have to reach out to many different distributors. So a lot of the manufacturers have realized now that it's a really big thing, and so they have their own programs. But I'm going to have to go to different avenues. I'm going to have to reach out to some distributors. I'm going to have to reach out to some local places, and I'm going to have to broaden that out a little bit more.
Do you think most stores just use whatever the manufacturer recommended vendor is?
No, I don't think that that's the case at all. Now, is there some out there? Sure. But I think the ones that work really, really well and work the programs find that they're going to use a bunch of different avenues, whether it be a local distributor, and really, really good parts managers are going to use their inventory. Mm-hmm. Not only are they going to use their inventory to match theirs, but it's going to be a complement of theirs. And so if I only want to stock one or two deep on that, I have somebody that's local that's going to have a lot more depth to their inventory.
What would you tell a truck shop that doesn't do tires?
A truck shop that doesn't do tires, they're missing an opportunity. They're missing an opportunity to take care of the customer. They're missing an opportunity to sell something. They're missing an opportunity to make some margin off of that and some money. And I think if you're late to the game, I think if you're not in it now, you're late to the game.
Oh, that might be true. Because, I mean, if it's the one thing that trucks are going to need, it's tires, right?
I think if you go with the truck market, you can't afford not to sell tires. Mm-hmm. I believe that the best way to do that is to map everything out. To have it laid out, I should be able to take an aerial view of my parts department and lay it out. So I have my bins labeled in rows on a map, so that I can walk back there at any moment and I can find that item.
So do you have like a poster board with this map on it, or is it like an individual paper that every employee has access to?
So you could get it at every employee, or you could have it just one giant scale, but parts managers want to know the layout and where things are set, so that when I'm looking up for a incorrect posting on my bins, when I'm looking up for a dual posting, I'm trying to lay out and see how that looks. What better way to do that than with a map?
Yeah. Well, I would assume that makes inventory about easier too, right?
Think of it from a sense of, well, not only your inventory and them taking inventory, but think of it in a sense that I have a young kid that comes in that I'm trying to teach, and I pull him into a shipping and receiving, and I want to make sure that he puts parts where they belong. So I would also group everything together. So think about it if I want to go to a bin that has all lamps, I want him to know where to put new lamps that come into my inventory that phase in. So I'm going to have him have a map as well. That way he knows where to put the items. He wouldn't put a tire in an incorrect place, but he could put an actuator with a lamp.
Oh, okay, yeah, because a lot of those look the same.
Yeah, so
right?
if I lay it out in my map, have it set up for him, then he knows where to put those items. I have all my fenders together, I have all my hoods, my bumper covers. That's not as quite misleading as the other items that are in the similar boxes, and I don't want to mix in actuators and sensors with filters.
Yeah, of course, that makes a lot of sense. I've always thought about it like this. I think there's a couple of things that happen, and you'll know better than I do on this, but I think in a lot of cases, when it comes to bins in the organization, I think that sometimes as parts departments, people are way too general. Like they could be more specific.
At the end of the day, every one of those body shops has the same goal. Body shop is high production, high turn. That's the business model. They're planning for when those parts will be there, that car getting done, having it get to paint, having it get to assembly, pre-fit, all those things. And if you're delayed in that part shipment at all, and when you've committed to it, it's about speed. It's about getting it to them. And so that's part of the marketing of what can you provide to keep their production schedules rolling. And how you advertise that and how you move forward is key to the success of the growth of your wholesale business. So that's a big thing.
The top 5 keys to successful wholesale. First is having great advertising and marketing. The second is strategic inventory management. The third is making sure that you are not relying on manufacturer rebates and one manufacturer to run a profitable wholesale business. The second, number 2, is what I call cradle to grave customer service and everything in between. And then finally, the number 1 key to running a successful wholesale business is knowing that it's not all about price. With you, what is your preferred inventory method? And then give me a why. So kind of just setting this up. Each of us came up with 5 reasons why we think the way that we do. And at the end of the day, I think it still kind of comes down to user preference. But we got 5 whys of why we're going the way that we are. But Cliff, I want you to start with yours, and kind of don't leave out any details, and at the same time understanding that what you're talking about, not all manufacturers are created equal with that. But.
Sure. No, so I was going to say the very same thing, that it depends on the manufacturer. Some are on certain programs, some on others, and some of them that are across the board that are with multiple manufacturers. And so you have to keep that in mind too.
So you're taking the side of the automatic stock replenishment.
I'm taking the side of automatic stock replenishment. Yep. And what I would maybe like to hear is, I'm just going to give you my number 1 reason, and I just want to hear maybe a quick rebuttal. Could we do that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. All right. So my number 1 out the gate is the structure.
Okay, you might have to help me understand that a
Yep.
little bit.
So the structure of it, the structure and the setup and what it's looking at. So understand that most manufacturers are looking across the board and at multiple locations. They're not simply taking just your information, but they're taking into account other stores in your area, other locations. They're also taking into account what is sold out of the distributor. So whatever comes out of distribution center, that's taken for account too in most cases of the automatic stock replenishment. But I think the structure of it and the way it's set up.
Yeah. So long story short, it's a really complicated algorithm that uses more information than an individual parts manager would have.
That's correct.
Okay, so now in your experience, I'm just curious, I don't know the answer to this, but you've seen a few different automatic stocking programs working with different brands. Have you seen one that works really, really well?
So I do like the Parts Eye. I think it's a fantastic version of that.
With?
Parts Eye is with Nissan. Hyundai uses it currently. I believe Kia's using the same program. Could be wrong about the Kia. And there's probably another couple brands that it's using. I do like that program. There are some things that it adds to and takes away. And we'll get into some of the other reasons on it, but the Parts Eye is a great version.
Okay, so and let's do that too, is that kind of explain how the Parts Eye, how it works. Like, what's the purpose of it? And the end of the day, like, what makes it trigger something that it puts on your shelf?
So it could possibly use someone else's inventory to suggest an item for you stocking.
Okay, so that's a game changer a little bit. So let's say, I've got clients in North Dakota, and up in North Dakota, it gets really, really cold in the wintertime, and on some of those cars, there's like some components that fail because of cold weather.
Right.
So what you're saying is if I've got a store up in North Dakota and 2 or 3, let's say Chevrolet dealers, 2 or 3 Chevrolet dealers around me in North Dakota are starting to sell a lot of this fan part or whatever it is, right? So it may actually throw an automatic stock onto one, even if we haven't sold one, saying that the environment is such that these dealers are selling this.
That there's an
parts.
opportunity to sell that part, and there's an opportunity to have a demand for that part, and an opportunity for a lost sale for that part.
Cliff's belief that ASR is better is because of the structure, the streamlined process, the return policy, the freedom for a parts manager to have time management because they're not sitting there worrying about the inventory. And then there's also the kickbacks from the manufacturer and kind of being in good graces with the manufacturer. So those are the 5 reasons Cliff thinks ASR is better. My belief on the parts manager kind of having that control is that they've got 30 years of experience providing into what they're putting on the shelves and taking off the shelves, that the parts manager owns the responsibility for what's in the inventory when they're responsible for doing the orders. Also that there's less returns when you're doing manual ordering versus the automatic stock replenishment. The computer system's a little bit clunky on ASR, so we believe that if they're not having to worry about all those different interfaces, that it's better. And then we got creativity with where we're willing to go to get a part when we're not relying solely on the manufacturer for that. So those are our 5 reasons for each. I think you could, Cliff hit the nail on the head. Really, it depends on your business model. And at the end of the day, cleanliness is next to godliness. I think that's kind of one of the themes that I've gotten from Cliff is I get to learn about some of this part stuff too, is that really how clean you keep it has a lot to do with how effective your inventory management is.
I just think you have to evaluate it. You're going to have to make your own list, your pros, your cons of the reason why it would or wouldn't fit your business model. I think the more you can kind of talk to maybe your employees and see the value that it would create with them, it'll give you more, give you something better to look at.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that happens is that 9 out of 10 times the customer is uber forgiving and understanding, and 1 out of 10 times you probably deserve to get yelled at anyways. So that's kind of how I think of it. Is that like the truth is the only way to go. And at the end of the day, our customers they work too, and they're not perfect at their jobs. And it's so funny how you almost can connect better with them when you tell them the truth and hey, I made a mistake. They feel a little more connected to you. I honestly believe that sometimes when you show that you're human, it's one of the best ways to connect.
Well, the other end of that, talking about a mistake, is I always tell guys that work for me, under me, with me, whatever, is that you've made a mistake, not a big deal. Here's the deal. If you don't make a mistake, you're not doing anything. That's the reality of the situation. So I expect a mistake. I almost demand it, because if you're sitting over there doing nothing, you'll make no mistakes. Well, Harry over there makes no mistakes. Well, Harry ain't doing a damn thing. No wonder he ain't making a mistake. I'd rather you make 10 mistakes knowing that you're handling, $30,000 worth of business for me every day.
Yeah. All right.
That was good. About the 5 keys to being the best in business parts department.
All right. Number 5 is perpetual inventories. Number 4 is sourcing for analysis. Number 3 is phase in, phase out, and properly setting that up for depth versus width. Number 2 is lost sales. And then number 1 is being a leader, not a manager.
That is profound. Cool. So those were the top 5 characteristics,
Skills, however you want to do it.
skills of top dog parts managers. Cliff, hit us with that list one more time really quickly.
All right, number 1, detail matter. All the details matter. Number 2, play the game. Number 3, embrace change. Number 4, be a student of the game. And number 5, discover the lost art.
Okay, so there you have it. Stay tuned. We got some more great content coming up on future episodes of Parts Hold.